As vocation director at Downside, one of my jobs is to talk to people who come about vocation. Sometimes people come not quite sure where they think God wants them to be, where their life is taking them, and sometimes they have quite a firm idea. But the whole issue of thinking about vocation starts, in fact, at our baptism. Our primary calling is the call to be a Christian, and we live that out in a number of different ways. God calls some people to be priests, some to be monks or nuns, some people to be married, and other people to be single. And each one of us needs to try to discern, where does our vocation lie? What is God actually calling us to? And then, of course, there's the issue of how we discern what that is. But these general vocations to priesthood, religious life, marriage, or single life are actually just a starting point, because there are a variety of themes within those different callings. After all, there's a very concrete question. If we feel we're called to marry, who should we marry? Which diocese or religious order should we join? If we are going to be married or single, then what job should we do? So how do we decide this? How do we discern? Now the key, of course, to any Christian is going to be prayer, because it's only with a sincere life of prayer that we can come to know what God may want of us. And only if we are accustomed to seeking God and trying to hear his voice can we actually discern that voice in the midst of everything else that's going on. I think one thing is pretty clear. God does not call us to do something that is going to make us intrinsically unhappy. If we cannot stand the idea of being a diocesan priest, then that's a pretty good indication that it's not for us. No matter how suitable a particular woman might be, for example, if we cannot bear the thought of spending the rest of our life with her, then clearly it's not going to be our vocation to marry her. For men, there is a vocation to fatherhood, whether it be to be biological fathers or spiritual fathers. That means really that each one of us has a vocation to care for others. And the same applies for women, of course, who are biological mothers or spiritual mothers. And we see this among the desert fathers and mothers too. For example, I personally am not a biological father, but I exercise spiritual fatherhood in different ways, by hearing confessions, by offering advice when I'm asked, and, of course, like biological fathers, sometimes even when I'm not asked, by helping those in sorrow or grief, by marrying people and baptizing their children. And of course this is one of the great joys of being a priest. The French philosopher Lacordaire said that a priest is a member of no particular family, and yet he is a member of every family. And as a member of a religious community, because I of course am a monk at Downside Abbey, you have two families. There is your birth family, and there is the religious community here. And of course there may well be other families that you join by a spiritual relationship. It's really important that we try to think of our life as a vocation, not just as a series of jobs or relationships. Our life is, of course, a series of stages in our relationship with God, and that applies to everyone. But if we just think of jobs as vocation, then what happens when we retire? Have we suddenly lost our vocation? Surely not. Or if we change jobs, suppose I stopped being a teacher and start being a translator, for example. Has my vocation changed? No, but the way I live out my fundamental vocation as a Christian, and then thereafter as a priest, as a monk, or in the case of most people as a married man or a single man, that has changed, but not my fundamental vocation. Many people assume that their vocation is not to be a priest or a religious. I remember one person said that he prayed every day that he would not have a vocation to be a monk. And unfortunately, that is very common, that people just assume, no, I can't do that. It's definitely not for me. But maybe it's worth each of us, if we're not already married, thinking about it the other way around. Maybe we should just, for a while, assume that God is calling me to be a priest, a monk, or a nun, and then just see, where does that take you? Use your imagination. Think what it would be like to be a priest, a monk, or a nun. Religious life is real life. It isn't a completely problem-free life. That's not reality. But like every form of life, if it is truly your vocation, if it is what God is calling you to, then it will make you fundamentally content. And surely that is the aim of all our lives, to seek union with God in prayer in this world, and to be happy with Him in this world as well as in the next.